Okay. So we see that Jonas is having more lessons, and that when he wakes up in the morning, that he is feeling this unsatisfied feeling, which is this feeling of longing and wanting more that is important in the human existence, but also as a narrative and like driving force for the story. He was left upon wakening with the feeling that he wanted, even somehow needed, to reach the something that waited in the distance. That feeling that it was good, that it was welcoming, that it was significant. So this is after he has his dreams of sliding down the hill on that sled, his first memory that was transmitted to him by the giver. We see that he starts to notice something interesting about Fiona's hair, the girl that he's starting to like, because he actually has that capacity now because he's not being forced to take this medication that people don't feel any sort of arousal, I guess. So this is him trying to describe it. Jonas told him about the experience with the apple, then the moment on the stage when he had looked out and seen that same phenomenon in the faces of the crowd. Then today, just now outside, it happened with my friend Fiona. She herself didn't change exactly, but something different about her changed for a second. Her hair looked different, but not in its shape, not in its length. I can't quite. Jonas paused, frustrated by his inability to grasp and describe what exactly had occurred. Okay. Now I want to skip to the part where they're talking about color. This is where he discovers what it is. The giver sighed. How to explain this? Once back in the time of memories, everything had a shape and size the way things still do, but they also had a quality called color. There were a lot of colors, and one of them was called red. That's the one you are starting to see. Your friend Fiona has red hair, quite distinctive actually. I've noticed it before. When you mentioned Fiona's hair, it was the clue that told me you were probably beginning to see the color red. Interesting. And also, he's being observant and is clocking that he probably likes Fiona. But this was the first time in reading a book when I was younger, realizing, like, oh, how would you describe a color? How would you describe a color to someone who hasn't seen color? And it made me realize to a different extent what some people must experience when they are colorblind, of like not knowing, like perceiving the world always in one way and then finding out that like other people don't perceive it that way, and like here are the different signs. So this is where they're talking about why color disappeared. The giver shrugged. Our people made that choice, the choice to go to sameness. Before my time, before the previous time, back and back and back. We relinquished color when we relinquished sunshine and did away with differences. He thought for a moment. We gained control of many things, but we had to let go of others. Yeah, gained control of humanity, but had to let go of your humanity, what it means to be a human, what makes you a human. And then he says, now we must work, and I've thought of a way to help you with the concept of color. Close your eyes and be still now. I'm going to give you a memory of a rainbow. It's like that also was such evocative imagery for me to read when I was younger, of imagining, like being able to comprehend what it is like to see a rainbow for the first time as if you hadn't seen it, and that you actually have more of a grasp on language and can express like what you think about it. Okay, so we see that Jonas in the next chapter is starting to push back against some of the restraints against him, or he can feel increasingly isolated with what is going on around him. Everyone seems to be happy and content with what is going on, and he has this feeling of longing and of there being much more, and it makes him angry. He said he found that he was often angry now, irrationally angry at his group mates, that they were satisfied with their lives, which had none of the vibrance his own was taking on, and he was angry at himself that he could not change that for them. He tried without asking permission from the giver because he feared or knew that it would be denied. He tried to give his new awareness to his friends. So apparently he tried to give it to Asher and it didn't work. That people have to have a certain capability or receptivity to it. And so, especially with him not taking these medications, it really is making his emotions come to the surface, things that he wasn't normally as upset about. That he seems to be a little bit shorter with Lily, his sister. Then he wonders about what the giver does and seems to see how lonely and sad he is. And there comes this point where Jonas actually sees how much the giver disagrees with the community. And it is this instance. My instructors in science and technology have taught us about how the brain works, Jonas told him eagerly. It's full of electrical impulses. It's like a computer. If you stimulate one part of the brain with an electrode, He stopped talking. He could see an odd look on the giver's face. They know nothing, the giver said bitterly. Jonas was shocked. Since the first day in the annex room they had together disregarded the rules about rudeness, and Jonas felt comfortable with that now. But this was different, and far beyond rude. This was a terrible accusation. What if someone had heard? He glanced quickly at the wall speaker, terrified that the committee might be listening, as they could at any time. But as always during their sessions, the switch had been turned off. Nothing? Jonas whispered nervously. But my instructors... The giver flicked his hand as if brushing something aside. Oh, your instructors are well trained. They know their scientific facts. Everyone is well trained for his job. It's just that without the memories, it's all meaningless. They gave that burden to me, and to the previous receiver, and the one before him. And back, and back, and back, Jonas said, knowing the phrase that always came. The giver smiled, though his smile was oddly harsh. That's right, and next it will be you. A great honor. Yes, sir, they told me that at the ceremony, the very highest honor. So, understanding that he will continue to feel this separation from himself, developing individuality, his own critical thinking, his own personality, that it will ostracize him more from the people around him, and that will be very uncomfortable for him. Okay,